up and down, just like George's computer desk.
This episode of Getting Tabled is brought to you by Valhalla Hobby. Use code GT2305 to get 5% off any order over $100. You can find them at valhallahobby.com.
Brought to you by some guys on the internet.
This is Getting Tabled.
With your hosts, Jason the Bruce,
You guy!
George the Yang,
I hope you are all entertained by my inaptitude.
Jason aka Major Socks.
We've been doing this and talking about various stuff. One of the stuff.
Now sit back, relax, and get tabled.
Hello, future people, and welcome to episode 119 of Getting Tabled with your host, the Bruce.
Hello, folks. Welcome to another episode. Episode 119, I think we are.
Yeah.
We're back again. And we're back with the main man. Well, I mean, he's not quite a man. He's more of a slime. It's Civvy Socks. I'm going to upgrade you.
I keep on getting downgraded or upgraded. I don't know what you're doing these days. Oh, well.
Well,
Yep.
you didn't turn up for an episode with like 3 seconds notice, so you got downgraded to less than a civilian.
That's true.
It could be worse there, Socks. He could call you reservist.
That's true. That's true. And,
Is reservist less than a slime? Okay.
Yeah, they're the ones that only show up for 1 weekend and pretend to be in the military.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, I will agree with you on that. I know some of those people, and they're so prideful about the fact they're in the military, even though they don't actually do any work.
I only do it once a month, though. And then, to be fair, though, like reservists do a lot as far as like augmenting when like a lot of bodies are needed on short notice. So, but they're still this weekend warriors. So, I'm gonna give them crap all day long for that still.
Yeah, I work with the.
It's also probably worth noting that we are very well aware that not all reservists are those idiots that brag about how they're in the military when they're only doing it once a weekend or whatever. That is a very small number of those people.
Yeah. And we have George, has snow up in Wyoming right now. George,
I have snow! Not a lot of it, just some of it. Enough to make people realize they don't know how to drive and they slide off the road.
You have snow on every day that ends in a Y.
It's true.
That's not entirely true.
That is fair. There is 3 days a year that you don't have snow.
I'd call it 3 weeks, but close enough.
Anyways, we have a lot of news to go over.
Lots of news to go over?
Lots of news.
Surprisingly, nothing from a certain company.
Yeah, for once.
I mean, there was news, but there was nothing Games Workshop were talking about that was worth discussing.
Newly received or noteworthy information, especially about recent or important events.
And we are starting with TT Combat.
Who?
And we are starting with, I think, what might be my favorite Carnivale thing for quite some time. I quite like these. The Daughters of Hydra. And pretty much it's exactly what you think it is from the name. So you start with these little, I was about to say, squiddly boys. Because they are squids, they're not octopi.
Squids.
Yep. Although everybody's going to call them octopi, probably. Because that's just... What's the overall term for both of them?
Cephalopods, I think.
Cephalopod, thank you. I think the creepiest thing is the big guy in the back that's literally filled with
he's got
squids.
One. Yeah,
like he's being piloted by them, by the look of it.
Or he was a host and grew them.
Yeah.
Or he was very morbidly obese and lost a bunch of weight.
Or is about to.
Yeah. When he spews them all out over you.
Yeah.
And then we have this lovely lady that looks like she's just petting one, but she's very clearly being piloted as well.
Looks like she's being motorboated, actually.
I can't unsee that now. I didn't even notice this the first time. She actually has one hidden in her handbag as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's her purse
"Ooh,
squid.
Look at me, I'm so cute.
You know those Hollywood Karens that walk around with a chihuahua in their purse? It's the same thing, just with a squid.
Pretty much. And then there's the cephalopods that totally haven't been eating all of these skulls. What skulls? And then there's one that's sitting on top of a fish trap net type thing. and others that are just kind of hanging out on the ground. And there's another one wrapped around a pole, or another couple wrapped around a pole.
It's a flagpole.
I really like these.
Would you say they're
that is not
dancing?
a flagpole? Oh yes, yeah, flagpole. I'm pole dancing.
Is it a flagpole or is it a barbershop pole?
It's a
It
bollard.
looks like it's a bollard.
Yeah, that would work too. Yeah,
because it's in Venice.
I know
Interesting
words.
Yeah, because the secret is that you'll notice this is the only one that's not on the fancy brickwork. It's actually on top of resin, which is supposed to be water.
Water, yeah.
Yeah. That's your little secret there. I really like this box set. I don't know how it holds up as far as a crew is concerned. I suspect, and I am somewhat guessing here, that you would probably have to add stuff to this to make a proper crew. I don't know, but I really like the look of these. We also got something else coming for Carnivale, and this is the Lunar Congression. So this is for the vampire boys, and it's not all vampires. We've actually got some wolves as well, werewolves.
Lycans.
So that you can get your underground going. What was those movies called?
Underworld.
Underworld, thank you.
With Kate Beckinsale.
I kind of like the fact that the vampires aren't the same sort of vampires we've had. We're starting to get a little bit of... This isn't the first time we've got like some variation on the theme, but I like the fact that these are clearly like Eastern European piratey type people.
Gypsy?
Yeah.
I was trying to avoid using that word, but yes.
Okay, what's the other word then?
Well, I just said Eastern European, but...
Well, yeah.
Romanian.
Romanian migrants, how about that?
Interestingly, if you look at the werewolves a bit closer, they seem to be covered in like sigils and stuff. Like those little stones with stuff. Runes, that's the word I'm looking for. I don't know what the runes are.
Hello, I'm George the Yank, and I'm Bruce's thesaurus for the evening.
Oh no, never mind. One of the guy's arms is wrapped up in the same way. Hang on, I think I'm connecting dots here. Two of these vampires... Oh no. Nope, never mind. I thought I'd noticed something, but I haven't. It doesn't matter.
Oh, were you going to say one is a pre-transform, the other one is post-transform?
That's what I was thinking, but I'm wrong.
I will say this. So there's been lots of interpretations of werewolves.
Yep.
And there's a certain franchise that will rename nameless because all the teenage girls absolutely love it.
Yes.
Ruined werewolves.
Yes.
And if it was not for Underworld with Kate Beckinsale and Bill Nye, that's the other name that big from that. They had the absolute perfect representation of a werewolf, and I love that TT has gone more that direction.
Who was Bill Nye in that?
He was one of the Council of Three vampire lords.
You're talking Bill Nye the Science Guy, right?
No, I'm talking Bill Nye the actor.
Oh, okay. That's why I'm confused, because I'm like, hang on, I know that name.
Yeah, it's Nigh, I believe, is how his name is spelled.
All right.
I'm sorry. No, yeah.
Underground was before the certain franchise that's definitely Twilight, just for the record. And I will argue that made more damage to vampires than it did to werewolves. I don't think it did anything good for anything, but vampires got hurt more. Yeah, I really like these sets, honestly. I think they're really nice. I really like these werewolves. They're probably the highlight for me. But I don't know, do you guys, like in this particular box set, do you have... Oh, that Bill Nye, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any leanings?
Let me click on the...
I thought the guy with the red bandana was missing an arm for a second, but he's not.
Yeah.
I'm leaning towards the gray werewolf of the two werewolves.
The one with the runes, yeah.
The more the runes. He seems to be much more monstrous. Like the other one, it's still monstrous, but look at the size of the hands and the difference of the two. Like
Claws.
the gray one, the hands are so massive on that. It's like Hulk hands on a werewolf. They're just absolutely massive, and like it's a very monstrous transformation.
Yeah, and more human-y claws than the other one has, like proper on. No, they both got like fingernail claw type things. And I'll say that this is the first time I've really seen somebody do that. Oh, I like it. Well, I've not seen somebody do that with a werewolf. It makes a lot of sense, honestly.
Yeah, it totally does. I mean, it's it's a human turned into a wolf. It's like we have hands. The werewolves and the good representations of they have hands. It's not a paw. I can see like the back leg being more paw like because that's our feet are more like a paw than I think this is probably like a really good. I think it's a really good set just because, like I said, it is a really good representation of a lycanthrope werewolf, and with the whole the regional dress of the three humanoids is very fitting to a werewolf appearance.
And the fact that you could either paint them up to be piratey or the regional themed, it fits either way. Honestly, like you could paint these up to be the Romanian type background, or you could paint them up to just be pirates, and you really wouldn't have to change much. I would probably argue that the more color you add, the more piratey they're going to look. The lady out of all of them probably looks the most Eastern European to me, to my mindset at least. Anyway,
the dude in the yellow jerkin looks pretty Romanian.
Yeah,
although his sash is a little long, so
I agree.
Oh, he would totally trip over that. But it makes for a very dynamic pose.
Right.
Also helps it stay on the base a little too.
Probably.
Solves one of those issues where if you want a running pose and you've only got one leg on the ground, like it makes things staying on bases very hard if you don't want to pin things.
Yep.
So anyway, time to move on. It's been a while since we've looked at... we haven't really looked at the terrain for a while. I mean, there has been things happening, but because the industry's been kind of busy, we've been kind of not looking for a while. So I thought we'd have a little bit of a look. We've had quite a few things being released in the pup line. This is the line that they picked up from a company that is no longer with us. I can't think of who that company is right now. I'm sure we'll get comments about it. But I quite like the pup colony specifically. I don't know what it is about that building, but I really like the look of that. But yeah, these were originally designed by another company that's no longer with us. Quite complicated looking sets. Like they're very much these are very much Infinity 40k type stuff, depending on how you paint them.
That looks like a good terrain acquisition for a Drop Squad Commander.
Yes.
Yeah, 100%. I'll agree with you on that. Very, very modular by the look of it too.
I'm still not using that other name.
That's because it is called Drop Squad Commander. I can't remember what they are actually calling it.
Strike Team something or other.
Strike Team Commander, that's right. The QDSC gatehouses are quite nice too, very much super Infinity type sci-fi. I'm just going to say Infinity type sci-fi. It's very clearly it wouldn't fit into 40k as much. Well, I mean anything could fit into 40k, but
do you know what I'm going to say is the most brilliant looking terrain of all the stuff that's labeled new here?
I suspect that we're going to agree, but I want to hear what you have to say.
The Sir palettes.
Oh, no, we don't agree then. Okay, hang on. Let's have a look at... They are cool, though. I do agree with you. They are cool.
They're so simple. It is a little palette. And then they are designed to interlock stack. So literally, you get 10 kits of those, and you can have stacks of these all over the place for scatter terrain. And it's brilliant because they interlock. So you can stack them 4 tall, not worry about them falling over too much. Sliding out of place. It's good, simple terrain. It's great for a kill team zone mortalis type thing.
Yep. These are really easy to build too, by the look of it. I'd probably be tempted to spray paint these before I put them together, personally.
The Sir pallets?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Just spray paint just spray paint the front of them and then build them. And then once they're together, wash them. And you'll be done. Oh, a few highlights and stuff, obviously, but...
Yeah,
painting them after the fact might be a little harder.
Rattle can them gray, wash them in black, and then dry brush them in white, and boom, you're done.
Yeah. Or it depends on what the world is. I mean, if you're going 40k, that's the way you would go. If you would, it depends. Like having different because
maybe not white
and stuff
maybe
and cargo containers tend to be various random colors quite a lot.
That's true. Well, yeah. Oh God, I didn't even think about that. Like, yeah, get like 10 kits and like have your yellow, your green, your orange, red, purple, blue, like all sorts of colors, and then wash them all in black, and then just hit it with a dry brush of like a lead belcher just to grab those edges of silver like the paint's worn off. That'd be beautiful.
So when I look at these, I know it's not necessarily what they've been designed to be, but to me, I see something between a shipping container and a pallet, where they've kind of like combined the two into one.
Yeah.
Because you can't tell me that you would need to put that in a shipping container with the way that they're being designed. Not in the future, at least, anyway.
It'd be transported on like a shipping container, and then like you could just load them individually stacked on like a flatbed, like transport thing. So,
the two that I really like, actually, I'm going to say the three that I really like, is the food bars, the ribbed bar, and the surgery shack. Because let's be fair, they may as well be going together. I really, really like these. The bar in particular, I haven't seen somebody do a sci-fi bar before. I mean, I'm sure they're out there, but I just haven't seen one. And I would argue that you could easily paint this up to look like modern day if you wanted as well. All you've got to do is be careful in the way that you build it.
Yeah.
It's like not build it, careful in the way that you paint it. Because there's not really a lot there that screams, this is sci-fi, unless you paint it to be that way.
The shape of the sign kind of does.
Yeah. I mean, if you leave that and you don't paint the sign, then yes, I would agree with you. If you was to put some paint on it and make it look like it's on like an aluminium sign or something, you'd be all right.
Sure. Yeah.
Because it's more the fact that it's acrylic, I think, that makes it stand out.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. The pup stuff looks really great, but those palettes, they're just it's something like that. It's just so simple and looks so damn good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm liking the pup stuff. Just the modularity you could do with those two.
Yeah, it's kind of bugging me that I can't remember who they were. I mean, I have a conversation with Louie where he actually tells me, but I'm in the middle of recording. I can't look it up right now. I will look it up later, and I will put it in the show notes, or I'll put it across the screen or something. No, I really like this. Then the fact that they're rolling it out slowly as releases, rather than just going, "Hey, all of this is back and it's now ours,"
right?
Makes it feel a little bit more seamless. Because obviously, if they've been designed by somebody else, there's going to be people that won't recognize them and assume that they're new product. But also, you don't want your work to be overshadowed by this mass wall of stuff that is reportedly new.
So, Army Painter has recalled spray paint. Spray paint.
Yep. Now, first things first. I want to point out something that probably doesn't come up a lot. But recalls are actually fairly normal and fairly common. And I don't think a lot of people realize this. This isn't actually that big of a deal.
Yeah, usually though, like when people are dealing with or like associating recalls, it's usually like a very major, safety issue with automobiles.
Yeah,
or that
the
Toyota VW's brakes not working,
or the Volkswagen engine like actually providing false information for emissions testing and Yeah.
So basically, like, I will actually read what this says, just because I didn't have to put this in the news, but I thought it was probably worth touching on. I actually shared this yesterday. When was this? Yeah, yesterday, not long after they posted it on our feed, because I kind of felt that getting this news out there was, I kind of felt that getting the news out there was more important than when we did it. But the recalled product has been deemed defective due to signs of cracking with white shade when drying. This is especially noticeable when using a heavy application on the spray primer. If you've experienced this issue, So basically, there's been a slight miscalculation in the chemical mixer. It hasn't been mixed properly, so there's been a mistake in the machinery somewhere. By the look of it, because I can see a comment by Warren Johnson of Beasts of War fame, it looks like there may be an issue with some of the Desert Yellow stuff as well. I guess we'll find out, because he's having issue as well. Beasts of War or On Tabletop also have a storefront and do sell Army Painter stuff. So if they're noticing it as well, it might be worth watching this story a little bit. Again, this isn't actually a big deal. Like, this is something that happens in the industry all the time. I don't think we see it in tabletop as much, because a lot of the faults that we have in this industry are either stuff that gets accepted, like the issues that you get with resin warping and stuff is kind of just like, it's just what you deal with. Put it in some hot water, it'll be fine. Right. Or it's miscast, in which case the company 9 times out of 10 will just send you a new one. Mm-hmm. As opposed to recalling, which is just not... Like, recalling costs companies a lot of money. Yeah. I mean,
this is the kind of thing that would have completely, gone past my radar. Just, when there's so many different options of spray options out there. I mean, you got Army Painter, you got Citadel, you got anything off the shelf at your local hardware store that will work just as well too. And in my case, because I'm sick and tired of dealing with rattle cans, I just airbrush prime.
I avoid rattle cans as much as I can unless it's an MDF kit. If it's an MDF kit, you kind of need a rattle can.
Well, no, MDF kit, you could do a PVA water mix and run that through an airbrush too. And
well, that's true. Yeah.
So. But yeah, I mean, that's just where I've gotten at this point of I'll just airbrush primer on, or I'll get the Vallejo, that you run through the airbrush and just brush it on. But yeah, it's something like this. This could be a huge issue, because primer, what's it designed to do? Stick and allow things to stick to it. So if you spray some crap primer on, you've got crap primer stuck on your plastic. That's a pain to get off. Period.
Yeah. On this, it's a specific. It's only the black that they're reporting on. Basically, they say to email them. Do not try to fix the problem. Reach out to them. And there's a specific email that you'll see on screen. The link in a show notes takes you directly to the picture that we're looking at, so you'll be able to see it. And they're saying it's 2 to 3 working days to get back to you. I wouldn't be entirely surprised if that extends out a little bit, because these things usually do.
Yeah.
Because it depends on how widespread the problem is. And to be fair, let's be fair, there will be people that will try to take advantage of this to get money back. Because that's always
and some of the comments are saying that some people have had issues with other colors too. There's a guy that posted Desert Yellow, so.
Well, that's what I was talking about earlier. But that's the comment by Warren Johnson I was referring to.
Yep. They'll probably see more of this in the future.
Yeah. Moving on, still on Army Painter, because last episode, we may remember... Wait, was it last episode? Where I got the surprise package? Yeah. I got the surprise package of Warpaint's Fanatic, which I've kind of played around with a little bit, not a lot. I need to do some more testing on it. It looks really nice, honestly. I mean, I'm only judging on the ones that got sent to me, which are obviously picked by them, but this is the 3rd version of their mainline paints at this stage, and they're basically trying to fix what most people would say is the issue with them. Because generally, all paint lines have good colours and bad colours. There are no perfect paint lines. If you think they are, if you think a particular paint line is perfect, A, you're wrong. and B, you probably haven't been looking very hard. It doesn't exist. But one of the big complaints about the Army Painter range has been that certain colours are very watery, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It depends on how you want to paint. It depends on how impatient you are. Because if it's a little bit watery, then it kind of helps with keeping the thin layers and stuff down. But if you're having to do 4 or 5 layers before you get a decent coverage, then that's a problem. But at least in the pictures that they're showing us at this stage, and you'll notice that they are using some colours that are quite notoriously bad for all ranges. Hello, yellow. Coverage, by the look of it, is much better. Now, these are just being painted over bases. So it's just... And these are actually pictures. Like, you can see the brush lines and everything. So it's going to be interesting to see how this actually goes in real life. 216 paints. They're going quite strong. So by basically taking one line and replacing it with the new one. They've kind of redesigned their color schemes. Like, they're still doing the whole triad thing, because Army Painter's whole thing is that everything should be easier, and it's just getting it on the table faster. It doesn't mean that you can't use them for more high-end painting. It's just this is how they try to push them. But they're kind of pointing out what I would argue is fairly obvious. Like, you don't necessarily have to stick with color triads, but they're kind of like showing that you could go in and around to kind of change the shades a little bit.
I think they're sticking with that, given that a certain other well-known painter in the industry that has his own paint line now has specifically designed his paint line based on, the color triad.
Well, they're not the
three colors. So,
yeah.
Well, but
most companies are doing it. Army Painter have been pushing it like every time that their lines go out. Duncan definitely didn't start that. Duncan has jumped on a trend.
But he's pushed it more as far as like others go, in my opinion. One company that doesn't do that, I would say, is Scale 75. They
just have like, this is a paint line and da 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 da.
Which, don't get me wrong, it is a great paint line. I do love it. I mean, I've got 2 more sets of it coming here as soon as because I did the Kickstarter for their airbrush line to see how that was.
Yep.
And they had great deals on their sets, so I have a couple more their metallic sets coming to see how those are. So, because I want to stop using Games Workshop as much as possible.
That's pretty much what I've done as far as paints is concerned.
I think there's only like 2 things that I have not found a replacement for, and a couple of their washes and their gold they have. That gold that Games Workshop has is just absolutely brilliant. So as soon as I can find a replacement for that, I'll be happy.
I've pretty much found it. Yeah, I've pretty much moved away from everything at this point. Although I've never used that gold either, because I was getting out before it was around. I know it's meant to be good, but I've just never had a reason to use it.
Yeah.
I think this is interesting. It's obviously something that they will continue to be able to push out and expand later. I think this is probably a decent starting depth. The color choices feel fairly balanced. Like with speed paint, when it first came out, there was this heavy lean in one direction just because of how they were doing it. This feels like there's a lot of reds, there's a lot of blues, there's a lot of greens. I think they're starting at a fairly decent level. It'll be interesting to see when more stuff comes out, and obviously review samples and stuff. Moving on to, I think, some GCT goodness. Yeah, GCT goodness. So, Bushido. I love Bushido. And we are starting with a lovely rat person. So this is for the Cult of Uri.
That is a great looking rat person.
Yeah. I love this mini so much. I believe I said something along the lines of, darn you, GCT, stop making nice models. I don't want to have another faction. Because there's a couple things in this that are really, really tempting. You could build a full list of rat people at this point. There's a quick look at the card for those that want to see it. Looks like it's going to be quite nice. 14 rice. We'll need time to see how it performs on the table, but in theory, it looks like it's going to be quite nice. Next up, Crab people. Although this is just a giant crab. Although actually, technically, this is 2 giant crabs. Because this is Kani-chan and Kani-kun. So I would imagine that this is a male and a female crab. I'm hoping that we get slightly different sculpts. All they would need to do is change one of the claws to be smaller. Or bigger. Because depending on the type of crab, the ones that have like the big punch crab are male and the females have equally sized claws.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, we'll see. And that's the card. 15 rice each. You can have up to 2 of these. So again, in theory, this looks quite nice, but we will see. Bushido's one of these games where like it's like they have worked their rule set so tight that they can change one thing and know exactly how many points it is. It's quite impressive. We also have, I forget what this guy's name is, Brother Zandaka, who looks cool. Silver Moon Syndicate. Yeah. I kind of like, he's like, I'm fine. Why would you possibly think that I'm corrupt, officer? Look, I'm just standing here. Ignore the dead body. It was here when I got here. That's what the face makes me think of anyway. Apparently they're an assassin. So, yeah. I like it. I just read that he has a monologue rule.
A monologue rule?
Yeah, under unique effects, monologue. When this model makes a successful ranged attack with this weapon, the target model gains a frightened marker. So basically, he talks them into being scared. I kind of like that for a villain. That's fun. And then, as far as previews is concerned, our very last one is this lovely falconer who has, surprisingly, a falcon on their arm.
What?
I know, right? It's so shocking.
Crazy.
And Zama the falconer. I'm sure that this is going to be very, very popular. So, yeah, time will tell. 16
I
rice.
like the look of this one.
I like the look of it as well. Like, this feels very I'm blanking on the historical figure. It feels very Genghis Khan.
Yes. I was going to say, yeah, it has a very strong Mongolian look. However, the northern islands of Japan, this is also a very common appearance too, for the way the clothing is. So, because Mongolia and Japan, they're not close.
Yeah.
No, they're separated by a pretty big chunk of water.
Yeah. And then finally, something that you actually can buy. House Long Shadow. No previews of the cards here at this stage, but this is the long rumored. I have actually known this was coming for about 6 to 12 months. I didn't know what it was, but I knew it was coming because I had heard whispers. But this is finally an actually themed box that you can buy for the ninjas. The ninjas are the only faction that's really never had a starter set of their own, because the problem with the ninja faction is that all players always kind of play them very differently because they're very much a puzzle that you can put together any way that you want. So creating a starter set never really made a lot of sense. So they built a themed box around a certain idea, kind of like what they did with that box set of like the witches with the really cool skeletons we looked at some time ago, and the fox dudes for the monks. I really like the look of this. And I kind of want this. I'll buy it. I'm not allowed to buy it, but I really want this.
Kind of, or you're going to get it in the future?
I kind of want this. I'm not saying I'm buying it. I don't need a third faction. But I do like ninjas.
Neither do I for Dystopian Wars, but it's going to happen for me.
I like to be, it's going to happen at some point. But yeah, I really like these. I'm just curious. These are actually going to be resin. Ooh, nice. Nice. It's going to be interesting to see what they look like in person. I really like the way these look. Out of the 5? Yeah, out of the 5 things we just looked at, any favorites?
The Falconers.
The Falconer?
Yeah. Even though I will say the Falcon looks a little big to be a Falcon because it looks more like the size of a hawk. But I do like to look at that model still.
She could just be that small.
That's true too.
True.
That is true.
It's also worth remembering that this is like a fantasy Japan.
Yeah.
So it could just be that it's just a really big Falcon. I'm tossing up between quite a few things. I think I lean towards the ninjas, very closely followed by the rat person. But there's nothing in this so far. It's been literally months since I've seen anything from these guys that I haven't looked at and gone, I really like that. I mean, as far as like standard pose, I mean, the one that's kind of just standing there is the guy that's like the assassin type guy, and he's just kind of standing there in what should be a really boring pose. But this pose says so much about the character. He's very clearly being manipulative here. Like, everything about what they're doing at the moment is really, really strong. Moving on, let's look at a Kickstarter. So, first things first. Anvil Industry are not Broken Anvil miniatures. I'm just making this clear because we had the story recently about a company with Anvil and people may get the two confused. I don't want people thinking that we are pushing news out to advertise for a company. Well, we're not advertising. This is just a story I found cool. But yeah, this is not the problem company that we spoke of a few episodes ago. So, this is 3D printable bank heist miniatures for tabletop gaming. So, these are just miniatures. I haven't really seen this done. I mean, I've seen criminals and I've seen cops and so forth, but I've never really seen cops and robbers done for a long time. I mean, there's definitely some modern games that push this idea. I really like this as like a gaming type scenario. I think you could have a lot of fun with this. I mean, cops versus robbers is something straight out of our childhood. Like, 100%. Like, you could play this very, very easily. And there's so many board games out there that kind of do this. This is not directly connected to a game, but I think you could write a game around this very, very easily. Or just take a rule set that you like and go, okay, it's this, but we're changing this slightly. I mean, the robbers start inside the safe, I guess, and have to get away. Like, you could change the scenario in this very, very easily. Looks-wise, this looks very modern day-ish. They kind of talk about how you could slide it into sci-fi if you want to. And I agree, like, there's not really much that needs to change to make it sci-fi. There's a video game that I can't think of what it's called that kind of does this as a multiplayer game, and it's very clearly taking inspiration from it.
What I love about this is how modular the minis are.
I agree. You can pretty much change up whatever mask it is that you want to wear. They don't even have to have masks. They can just have faces. There's several different body types. There's several different, and for both factions. It's not like you have, well, these are the police and these are boring, and these are the criminals and look how fun they are. Like, you can do pretty much anything you want with both of them. I really like that. And yeah, everything's been designed to fit together pretty much. You could even probably play around with it and have somebody dressed up. All you'd have to do is swap out one of the heads to make it look like somebody's betrayed the cops, or somebody's dressed up as a security guard, but he's actually a bad guy or something. You could do that very easily. Even things like the individual weapons, the smoke grenades look really good. And smoke grenades are things that should look boring, let's be fair. There's an STL pack, which is £15, which is just 4 items. The mega bundle is £50, which is for an early bird. Oh, hang on. Has this ended since I added it to the... This ended overnight. Well, that's frustrating.
Yep.
Oh, sure enough.
This was actually live when I added it to the run sheet. You know what? I would still look at this because this is a company like this will eventually go out. I may actually put myself forward for this when it comes out. This will be out next month at some time, and you'll be able to buy it separately. It'll be slightly more expensive, obviously. But if I had have noticed that, I probably would have skipped it. Because we have a lot of things on our run sheet. I really like this, though. I think this looks really cool.
It's a really cool, neat idea. And it's done in a way that it's not a new, unique idea, but it's done really well.
I have a question. Of the criminal masks, which is your favorite?
The criminal masks. Let's see here. Where are those at?
You're about
those
halfway down.
Coppers.
I like the... Where was it?
I think I like the doggo one, personally. I'm tempted to say the gorilla one, but...
I'd say the monkey one.
Yep.
The gorilla. Oh, no, the actual monkey.
Yeah, there's a gorilla, and then that same column at the bottom is a monkey.
Yeah, the actual monkey.
Why don't you say the gorilla?
So the same box that has the gorilla. Go down 2 heads, and it's a monkey.
Oh, you're looking at actual miniatures.
The Predator mask is kind of cool looking too.
Yeah, the Predator mask is kind of cool too.
Yeah. I'll give that. Yeah.
And they have like literally the Joker clown mask from the second Dark Knight movie. From the second modern Batman movie, rather. Yeah, I really like this. I just thought it was fun. Just disappointed that I didn't notice that it was closing so quickly when I added it to the run sheet.
Bruce.
Oh well, it happens. Moving on.
Some Conquest.
Only one thing from Conquest.
Which this looks awesome.
Yep. So this is another one of their limited time diorama type things. You can use this in game if you wanted to, but it's designed more of as a collector's limited edition piece that you can buy as kind of like just a display piece, and it's gorgeous. Yeah, these things are more expensive for fairly obvious reasons, because these things have much more detail and stuff going on. This is very, very impressive.
I love these Spartan-esque armor pieces.
Yep. No, I really like it. The Minotaur in the background is phenomenal. And I like the fact that all of them, like, they do come on regular basis. So if you didn't want to risk the diorama piece, you could still put these on a regular base if you wanted to.
I was going to say, it's a very Primarch Horus Heresy Forge World kind of thing where the base like goes into the diorama base.
Yeah. I mean, that's actually the way that their game is designed, where like everything has round bases, but they go onto like a square kind of movement like template movement base type thing. But if this doesn't fit with the rest of your army and you wanted to use it in game, you could obviously then have the two separate or whatever. Or you could just build your whole army so that everything kind of revolves around this idea. But that would be a lot of work. I really like this. I mention this whenever we talk about Conquest because we do have a referral code for them. If you're buying anything directly from the Parabellum website, if you use the code GettingTabled, you'll get 10% off the order. And it's a free way that you can help support us. We get a slight kickback from that. So if you want to do that, please do. Moving on.
Blackside Studios terrain? What?
I know, right?
You have terrain.
We have a small gas station here, which in theory is something that you should. Yeah, it's a gas station, but this is a really cool looking gas station. Also, I like the fact that somebody's actually done just a small town one rather than some big fancy one that clearly belongs in the middle of a city. Yeah, like this is something that, to be fair, feels like it belongs in a zombie apocalypse or a horror movie.
I was gonna say that the van they have in that one photo, it's got a window on the back. That's too many windows.
I look at this and I see the beginning of like one of the Friday the 13th movies. Oh, you don't want to go out there. That place is doomed. Although I don't think that guy was actually in a gas station, but it's what comes to mind.
This gas, and I'm not exaggerating when I say this, but I feel like I drive past a gas station like this when I go to Yellowstone because it's the last gas for 100 miles. Like it has that gas station look where it's like they have like a prime location and they're taking advantage of it, but they're being as cheap and just
minimalistic.
Yep, yeah. This is a beautiful look. Like this feels straight out like Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I really, really like this. It's also like fairly affordable. I mean, it's not the cheapest kit that they do, but this is a lot of kit for the money.
Compared to some of the kits they do, this is like super affordable.
Yeah,
I mean, come on, subway station and mall. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Especially when like these guys have pre-painted as well.
Yeah, so, for sure.
All you have to do is put it together. But it's not as good value as the next one. Okay, so we are currently waiting for second edition of Don't Look Back, one of my favourite games. And it's been delayed a little bit. It's not quite out yet. They wanted to have it out for Halloween, and this was going to be one of the things that they wanted to do for Halloween. They didn't feel comfortable releasing a product for it when it's not out yet, so they've thrown it up as a limited time only. You can only order this for free. Yes, you heard that right. This is currently being sold for free as a digital-only product. So it contains STLs for the miniature that you see on screen and PNGs for the actual cards for you to print out and play with yourself. This is only available until the end of October. It will come back at some point as a real, actual product that will be sold for money. And by the look of it, it's going to be around the $25 mark. They do a Gourd Reaper thing every year for Halloween. It's kind of one of their traditions. They didn't want to miss out on doing a new one, but they just didn't feel comfortable releasing a new expansion when the main game isn't out yet. So, and I think I applaud them for that. I think that's really, really good. They've kind of like they've done it as a freebie, but they've kind of limited it so that obviously they're not losing too much. So, like you've got a window of like 4 days to buy this, because this only went live yesterday.
The only thing I would suggest is if like later on, like you could go buy it for $25 or for like $10 or whatever, you could just order the card set if you've already like
printed it.
Because I mean, like I think having like the actual nicely printed cards from them, like if you've got a great 3D printer, you can print that STL. Like, sure, I get that, but I would still love to later on down the road without having to buy the miniature from them, just be able to buy the stat card as well.
Yeah.
So
it is probably worth noting that getting cards printed isn't the cheapest of things to do. And depending on how many they think they're going to sell, it may not actually be worth them doing that.
But if
that is something that they're going to be doing for certain things. So it wouldn't entirely shock me if they offer this.
Well, if they
being offered as limited.
If they're going to order like say 500 for the shelf, like of the miniature and the cards, okay, order 750 of the cards, and then they've got 250 sitting on the shelf or whatever. It's like, and that will just make the bulk order a little cheaper because they're good. Well, not cheaper, but the cost per unit cheaper because they're ordering more of it. So, if I were them, I would do that just for the people like myself that are going to want the nicely printed card.
Yeah, certainly.
So.
Last one from Blacksite Studios is some Country Road Z minis. So Country Road Z is a game that's being released by Earthbound Games. These guys are doing some miniatures for them. I've just chosen the bundle here. You can buy all of these separately. I just chose the bundle because it
That was all 4.
It was all 4, and we can look at these. Look really, really good. My favorite is the old man with the axe.
I was gonna say, dude with the axe. He looks like, F around and find out kind of dude.
Yeah, big time. I mean, none of them are bad. It's just that's my favorite, and I just think these are 35mm scale, so these are a little bigger normally as well. So it's 32mm to the eyes. I really like these. Honestly, I just think they look really nice.
The guy at the store looks like he's holding like an old cavalry sword that you get like from the army. If you're in the cavalry,
Yeah,
the way the scabbard is.
That is a cavalry saber.
Yep.
My NCO sword has the same kind of broguing on the end of the scabbard as well.
The scabbard, yeah.
Moving on. We are getting through it. All right, Socks. Time to take over.
All right. So, last month we had the Abydos Egyptian box set released. We're talking about Dystopian Wars here. Now we've got the Egyptian Frontline Squadrons. So if you want to buy more support style ships for your Egyptian set, you got this. This will be released actually on the 25th of November. So these are just announced by War Cradle Studios. So these ones are just additional ships, like I said, you get from the Abydos set, but allows you to build more if you need to.
Without having to buy the whole full thing.
Correct, exactly. And then moving on, we've got the Falkenstein set, the Battlefleet set for the Imperium.
By the way, well done, Socks. You pasted the same link 3 times.
I put new links up there. You probably have the old links in the old run sheet.
Oh, Socks. Real quick. I had to show Sam the my horrible joke that made Bruce roll his eyes, and it was talking about the Scandinavian stuff, and Sam pointed out that you mispronounced the Einhajar.
My bad.
Yeah,
sorry, Sam.
And he corrected you at a couple other pronunciations of some of the Norse stuff. I had no idea he could actually as accurately right. I was a little shocked, and mainly because we were also break out the Lords of Ragnarok game too, and he's pronouncing some of the stuff. The only one he was able to get wrong was the Svartalf.
Okay,
but yeah, just to point, work on your Norse pronunciations.
My Norse pronunciation. Sorry.
Yeah,
I'll work on that.
How dare you not be able to pronounce things from a language that hasn't existed for hundreds of years?
Exactly. Anyways, back to the Imperium. We've got the Falkenstein battle carrier set. So we've got a new carrier for the Imperium with a couple of heavy gun batteries on the front and then a carrier deck on the back. With already having 2 carriers in my fleet, 2 flagship carriers in my fleet. I don't know if I'll be getting this one, but I do like the look of it.
It does look nice.
And then you got some support ships to go along with it. You got a couple of cruisers and some couple of destroyers and frigates to go along with that set. So that one's pretty nice. This next one that Bruce has only put this one up on the set is the Couronne Battlefleet set for the Alliance.
This is the one that got my attention.
Yes, and I agree. This is actually talking about the third faction that I'll be getting. Yeah, this is the third faction I'll be getting for Dystopian Wars. So yes, you got this new fleet carrier for the Alliance. That has...
And for those watching the video edition of the podcast, look at the big ship in the middle and look at what is literally sitting on it. That is the bottom of the Eiffel Tower.
Bottom of the Eiffel Tower, exactly. If you scroll over 2 photos or 3 photos to the left, you will see that you can change it out and you can get the top half of the Statue of Liberty on top of on the bottom half of the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah.
So that's a alternate version of this carrier that you can do, and the torch of the Statue of Liberty is actually a weapon that you can use in the game. So
okay, is it a trick of the photography, or is the bow of that flight deck, does it kind of curves up and go down?
Yep, it's warped down a little bit.
I'm sitting here looking at this like, is that like I could not see if that was actually curved or if my eyes were just going?
No, it's warped down.
Okay.
Yeah, that was what stood out for me as well.
But then along with it, you get a bunch of cruisers that you
I
already
could
have
be
in the
wrong,
game.
but I think it actually does this. I'm exaggerating, but I think it actually lifts up and then goes down.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah, like the HMS carriers, the
They have
British,
that slope.
they have to ramp up because they don't have gigantic carriers like we do, and that's like the last little bit is up, so that they take up and off. This is like helping you splash in. Like you got to be good, or you're gonna crash before you ready to take off. I mean, that seems very French, right?
Yeah.
I really like this box set. I really like this box set.
So here's my complaint. Wait.
Mm-hmm.
Never mind. No. I had to say it in my head a few times. I was going to say it's a little disappointing that something that's obviously French based and they're calling it the Charlemagne, but there was like, wait, no. Charlemagne was French, so never mind.
Yes.
And we actually have an Alliance player in my group that we play with on Wednesday nights, and he's planning on getting this set. So I'm looking forward to see it in the table. Probably not right away, but here in the future, he might get it for Christmas or something like that from his wife. So,
for anybody out there that's wondering why the French have the Statue of Liberty on it, go and look up history.
Yes, agreed.
Can we talk about how there's a Picardy class?
I just saw that too. To be fair, he is supposed to be French. I mean, he's the most English-sounding Frenchman I've ever heard. But Picard is supposed to be French.
Well, I mean, yeah. There needs you need to file down the detail in the little dome just to make it a smooth bald or something. Or find out what the toupee looked like when he auditioned for the role as Picard, and make the little turret look like the toupee.
That's funny.
To be fair, that was their idea, not his. He was against the toupee.
Well, no. So as an actor, he had a toupee so that he could wear it to show what he looked like with the hair. And he auditioned for the role with the toupee. Actually, so he flew to California, and then his wife had to put the toupee on a different flight the next day. So it was a day behind him on a flight. And he auditioned wearing it and everything, and everyone stopped by the room real quick when he was afterwards just to see what he looked like bald, and they decided to go with him bald.
Yep. I don't think there's any question about this. The highlight of this month's releases is that giant carrier.
I agree.
It's one of the best giant ships they've done for some time.
So I saw
and
this.
They have a lot of really good big ships.
Yeah, they do. So I saw this as a war host a few months ago as a preview photo, and been waiting for this one to finally get released because I do like the look of this carrier.
So, Socks, I have a very, very, very important question for you, and this is an actual legit question. This is not a barcode pun. If you were to do the carrier with the Statue of Liberty, are you painting her copper or are you painting her oxidized copper?
It's a good question. I would probably paint her just the regular copper because it's.
I think that's the correct answer, but I think either or would look phenomenally good. I mean,
you could do a little bit of both. A little bit. It would be tough to do, but I think one way or the other would be the way to go.
I can see the creases of the robe, in the bottom of those, doing some of the oxidation down in there, the whole because. I think the Statue of Liberty absolutely looks more brilliant, that oxidized green, than if we spent how many millions a year polishing her and keep her looking like copper. I think the oxidized look looks so much better. But I could see in this world and universe the way things are, no, she's proper copper.
Yeah.
And for those that are wondering why I didn't mention it, yes, there is actually a Statue of Liberty in France as well. There is actually two of these statues. That's really. I would say the oxidized look is going to be the better look.
Well, given that this, and there's a third one, Bruce. There's an exact replica in Vegas too.
Yeah, but we don't care about that one.
So, and here's why. This is Victorian steampunk era, right? This is in the 1800s ish,
1875 ish. Yeah.
So, and this is on a fully manned crewed military vessel. In the military, there's a reason why like the polished shiny stuff is always polished and shiny, because there's either the lowest rank or someone who's screwed up really bad, and that's what they get to do is polish that stuff to where it's shiny.
That's a very good point. In world, it would actually make more sense for this to be polished and shiny.
And like I said, the aesthetic of it, I could totally see going for the oxidized copper, like making it look authentic to how it looks now. But that's why I also agreed with Socks of, doing the actual copper, I think is the better choice, because that would be more fitting for the era and especially on a military vessel.
Yeah.
I have a question of my own, actually. You may not know the answer to this. That arm, is it posable?
I don't know, and my guess is probably not.
It does look like a separate piece.
It is a separate piece, but it may actually have a lug on it to lock it in place.
You may not be able to pose it. However, with the ripples of the robe, there's no reason why you couldn't, green stuff a little part to have it pointing straight ahead.
Straight out.
Well, the artwork displays it pointing straight ahead, and that's why I was asking.
That is true. That is true.
So depending on the shape of the lug, if the lug is literally just a square, then you could pose it forward as well. But I don't know.
Or you get two super little itty bitty tiny super little round magnets and you drill it out and glue it, and then you can raise and lower it in game.
Raise and lower it.
Socks, if you do end up buying this, you know what my request is. And you know what you need to do. See if you can pose it. On camera. That's it for the news?
That's it for the news.
Yep. We got through all of it.
Indie. Definition. Independent. Type. Slang word. Jargon.
And we are talking today about Zealot miniatures. Which, just looking at the start of this already, they look really pretty.
They have the best miniature ever.
Okay, please explain.
The owlbear.
I was gonna say it's probably the owlbear because he likes his owlbear miniatures.
It is true. I don't know if we've looked at these guys before or not. I have a feeling we may have, but I wanted to look at them again anyway. Because there's definitely stuff here that's new.
We've looked at something similar, but I don't think it's this stuff.
I don't think it's been Zealot before.
I think we may have looked at these guys as a news article at some point, and then I promised to come back to them. I'm just going to... Socks, do you have anything in particular you want to have a closer look at?
I'm perusing through stuff right now. Give me a minute.
So I'm going to start with the owlbear for obvious reasons, because it's the one that George went about.
Over.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because
he is right. Like, this thing is amazing. Here's the thing that I find interesting. Owlbear is a D&D creation, right?
It is, yes.
Uh-huh.
It's like the Beholder. This isn't something that they co-opted. This is something they created, right?
I believe Owlbear is an original creation from Dungeons and Dragons, yes.
Yeah, so I don't know, and it's not the first time I've seen this. Everybody just calls them owlbears. But whenever somebody does a Beholder, everybody calls it the Eye Terror.
Yeah.
This is actually something I brought up at PAX with somebody that had one in one of their card games they were designing. I was like, you might want to be careful about that, because I'm pretty sure that Wizards of the Coast own that name. Usually people call them Eye Terrors. And it was just like I could be wrong, but just be careful, because you don't want to get slapped and have it ruin. And it was a game that deserves to get some attention, so I just gave them a heads up on it. I can't disagree with you, George. Like, this thing is absolutely gorgeous.
Okay. So I think I have a bit of an answer to that.
Yep.
So the Beholder was first created by a couple of guys. One guy, Terry. I'm going to spell the name before I say it. Kuntz. Cunts. Okay, I spelled it first.
It would be a hard U. It would be unts.
Yeah, whatever. So He created the Beholder. So there may be some licensing there because I specifically looked for Owlbear, and that is a 100% specifically created by Gary Gygax. And I guarantee you, as part of his will and testament, anything that he specifically coined a name for cannot be copyrighted or trademarked because that would have been totally against what Gary stood for.
Okay, no, that's fair. That would be the reason why then. I knew there had to be a reason. I just didn't know what it was.
So yeah, the Beholder, while it is an original D&D, it was not created by Gygax versus the Owlbear was created by Gygax. And I guarantee you part of his legacy is stuff he created. A lot of it won't. That's why there's probably all the OGL stuff and all the outrage and outroar on that is because of how long D&D has not been licensed like that, so to say.
Yeah.
That's my guess. So, and that's probably why you see Owlbears versus Eye Terrors.
Yep, possibly. I really like the Great Owl. There's a couple of things about owls. Like, I can't help, like, whenever I talk about owls, I have to bring this up. This whole idea about owls being really wise and stuff because of how they look, and they literally are the stupidest birds on the planet. And I mean, literally, they are the most stupid birds on the planet.
You've never dealt with quails, have you?
No, I haven't. But I was quoting, if anything.
Oh, quails are the dumbest.
Fair enough. The owl looks even better. Honestly,
the great owl
feathers are amazing.
Yeah. I love how the fact it's got that very straight, square jawline, so to speak.
Yeah.
That's another one of those like very like the regal look of the owl is that line like that just looks so good.
I love owls. They are so beautiful.
Yeah. Have you ever seen one of their skulls without feathers? Because they look stupid then.
Most skulls look stupid, to be fair.
No, a hippo skull looks absolutely terrifying.
Yes.
I've also opened up the Goblin Shaman. I thought he was fun.
So if you go into Dungeon Scenery.
So, Dungeon Scenery?
Yep. How many rows? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows down in the middle. You got the Dungeon Bunny and Tame and Vicious.
Oh, that's amazing. Let's be fair. This is straight from Monty Python.
Monty Python.
That is 100% what's inspired this.
Yeah, just how cute the bunny looks, and all of a sudden it turns vicious, and
I like the fact that they've made their own version of this. It's not just stolen. Like this is 100% their own creation. If anything, it looks cuter than the original one does because this is a cartoon bunny.
Yes.
Well spotted, Socks. This is amazing. Oh, I kind of want to throw that at a D&D party now. The problem with that is that if you ran a scenario and set this up, everybody at that table is going to know what's going to happen. But I would also argue that nobody is going to avoid it because everybody's going to want to see it happen.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because everybody, even if you don't know the movie,
you do this at a younger generation who hasn't heard about it, they might not know as well.
Well, that's fair.
Our generation, or those that are familiar with the movie, even if they haven't seen it, yes, I would agree.
I reckon meme culture would probably bring it to light as well, though.
Bruce, I have instructions. I have instructions for you.
Yes.
Fantasy terrain.
Fantasy terrain. Yes.
Then just sort from high to low.
High to low.
And then there's a wizard's tower.
Oh, that is.
Oh, that town gate is incredible. This is the stuff we were looking at originally. Yes, I knew that there was something. We were looking at that town gate originally.
Is this what you need some deep pockets for this?
Yeah, just a little.
But holy smokes, dude.
Yeah, that's incredible. Only thing I will say is I wish there was more pictures, though it's out of stock anyway. But
yeah, the mansion one. The mansion's got some pictures too. Ooh, Bruce. So the mansion, right? 126 pounds.
Yep.
But it's modular, so you could use it for a Blacksite Studios game.
Oh, it is too.
Right?
Yeah.
Go like hunt a
Creepy witch's
vampire.
house.
Yeah, go hunt a vampire in an old creepy mansion. Like, it's freaking perfect. It is expensive though. I mean,
Well, that's because these things are huge.
Yeah,
I will say this. I think the terrain should have sizes listed. In saying that, we're also looking at stuff that's not currently available. So,
yeah, the Grand
awaiting a
Merchant shop
restock.
is amazing too because it's it can pull out, but just the amount of detail it has with all the shop.
I'm going to open up, just as an example, the Gotham Ruin. Yeah, so now this is something they need to fix and change. Oh no, this one does have sizes. So there we go. That one is €99, and its dimensions is there an inch measurement? No, it's just in. So that's 295 mil. So 295 mil to inches so it's basically a foot square. I know. So it's 1 foot by about 14 inches by 1 foot.
That's a pretty decent size.
Yeah. So 375 is it's actually about closer to 14 inches. So the length is 15 inches. It's about a foot tall and a foot wide.
The
roughly.
Wizard Tower is almost 2 feet tall.
Oh, is there actually a size on that?
Yeah, you scroll down and you scroll down the Wizard Tower. So it's just over 6 inches by 9 inches, and then it's almost 2 feet tall.
Yeah.
They're all modular. The Wizard Tower's modular too.
Oh my goodness.
It would have to be if this has been, because most of these are being 3D printed. But the size of these things is and that's why you're paying so much. These things are huge. You are literally looking at a lot of time to print these things.
Yeah.
So that's just a small taste. I mean, it's probably worth, seriously, you could probably spend hours on this, and we easily could.
The Blacksmith Forge looks pretty nice with all the detail as well, with the furnace and the anvil and workbenches.
Just because I've noticed it now, go back to the very, very front page, and 4 lines down, you have the bookcase mimic.
Wait, what? Shop. Is this in fantasy?
No, go back to the very, very front page where you started.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay, got it. Okay, back.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
I mean, everybody loves mimics, but that is amazing. Also, it's apparently a scorpion mimic. It has a giant tail.
Tail coming up.
Yeah, it's a bookcase. Of course it's going to be a scorpion one because it's a tall bookcase. I could spend so much time going through stuff here.
Yeah. There's also an infant Tarask right next to it, which is just a really cool idea.
Oh, it's so cute. I want to hug it.
It'd be worth it. You'd die, but it'd be worth it.
Let's say.
Cream, blue, prime, paint.
So what have you been up to, Bruce?
All right. So I've been up to a few things. I had a couple of games. I'll go into those a bit later. I've also been building stuff again because I'm finally coming back out of the funk that I've been fighting through again, which is nice. First things first, I made a couple of changes to Entropy City. I might actually read one of those things shortly. But I've also been buying things, and I haven't bought minis for actually a while, honestly. But this isn't going to mean much to Socks, but George should know what this is straight away.
That. I saw that. I knew what it was when I saw it. I'm not a fan of that skin color for a model like that, but I know how much you love them.
Do you know? Do you know what this actually is?
Yeah, it's a Kroot.
No, the mini.
Oh no, I don't know specifically
Look at how
what
big
the
it
mini
is.
Yeah.
This is Inquisitor.
Oh.
The out of print game from the early to mid 90s.
Oh.
This is 54mm scale. I also have a Catachan Mini, which has been converted by the guy that was selling it. So these are second hand, obviously. I didn't paint these. I don't know if I really like the conversion he's done on the gun, just because I would prefer it to have been the original las gun, but it actually does look quite good.
Yeah.
I quite like the arm as well. I don't know if that's the original arm or not. I assume that it is. So Inquisitor hasn't been in print for a very long time. It never really took off. I would probably argue that it was before its time. For Sock's point of view, Inquisitor is it's based in Warhammer 40k. And it's halfway between a war game and a role playing game, as opposed to just being a war game. This was around 3rd ed, I think. George, you might be able to correct me on this. I think it was around 3rd ed that they were trying to push it out. Or was it 4th, was it?
I think it was 4th.
It was around the same time where this story was going away from it being all about, oh, look how silly and funny this is, to everything is going to become serious now. Because this is the moment where all of the bickering and stuff started getting pushed into the story.
Yeah, I want to say it was 4th because that's when Tau and Kroot were released, was 4th edition Warhammer. So yeah, or 40k, yeah. So
yeah, and it kind of it never really took off. I would argue that if they were to redo any of their old games, I know everybody wants Battlefleet Gothic and everybody wants Mordheim. I think this is money. They would make big money from redoing this. I would argue they have to change the scale, though.
Yeah.
Because one of the big problems at the time was that people, knowledge about how to do things in hobby wasn't as widespread as it is today, and information wasn't as easy to come across. And those that did know tended to, not everybody, but George and I will remember this. I don't know so much about socks, but there was a point in time where, if you knew how to do something and people were asking, oh, that looks really cool, how did you do that? A lot of people would go, oh, you'll have to find out for yourself, rather than actually sharing information.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of gatekeeping, especially back then.
Yeah, the silo of knowledge of, yes, I've been doing, hobby stuff for this long and have developed these skills, and I'm not going to share them and make it easy for you. You have to put in the time, like I did.
Yeah. Thankfully, that has changed. I mean, there are still some people like that exist, but basically they don't get friends.
Yeah.
I legit. Those people don't generally tend to get accepted anymore. But one of the big problems with this is that everybody's terrain was all at a scale and didn't really work, which was an important thing. And at the time, that was a big problem. It's not so much a problem anymore because people know how to build terrain, and 3D printing, you just boost things up, and it's not actually that big of a deal anymore. Most people know how to do stuff. But I think if they was to redo this, make it in, whether they make it in 28mm or maybe push it up to 40mm or something, if they want to do the whole, hey, this is a reason why you can do it. Because if they make it 28mm, then let's be fair, Games Workshop will find a reason that you have to buy more minis. That is what they would do.
Yep.
But Dungeons and Dragons is literally mainstream right now. Board games is literally mainstream right now. Not so much wargaming, but I genuinely think they would make a fortune with this. To the point where I've made the argument about how I don't believe there's enough room in the market for Age of Sigmar and Old World at the same time. That would solve that problem for 40k.
Yeah.
because it would be something different. I've also been building, which I was hinting at a minute ago, and I know that you and the Patreon know this, but I have been building trailers. So a few months ago, we looked at the trailers from Black Sat Studios.
Nice.
I've got 2 of them built at this stage, as long as one of the staircases. And that is Major Sox's front lawn there on the inside.
Yeah, I saw that. Thanks. I don't have
You
that
know
many
why I'm
flamingos
making
in my yard.
If you know why I'm making that joke, then you get to know. They all come.
So to be fair though, that structure and lawn decoration, that's more in the Panhandle area, Bruce, not the peninsula where Sox is at.
Yeah.
He's in Florida. It's close enough.
Obviously, we could tell you're.
I really like this. Like honestly,
I do like the cinder block risers.
Yeah, I was gonna say that is a nice little touch under there. The cinder blocks and the fact that they're not, vertical. They're a little canted, like it's slid a little bit. Like a hurricane came through and blew on it a little bit.
There's also another one. We have the blue one as well. I decided to go a little bit more weathered with this. I mean, there was a broken door on the other one and some broken windows, but I kind of went a little bit further this time. Just trying to make them out because obviously my intention here is to make them for Entropy City. The inside's slightly different colours on this one.
And those for Blackside Studios too.
Again. Yes, well, that is what they don't. Look back
I know that's what you got them from.
Aimed at.
Show me the interior again. I am very disappointed in that, actually.
Why?
Typical trailer house construction, the hallway that goes from the front to the back runs along the outside, and all the rooms go into. There's no centralized rooms or hallways in trailers.
Oh, okay. Honestly, I wouldn't know. So.
Yeah, because if you have a hallway down the center of that, you're not going to have any room for anything else.
Right.
If you have multiple sets, you can kind of swap and change pieces around to make them look good. I can do it with the roof as well.
God, those look so hot.
Obviously, it makes the side look a little weird.
No, that looks perfect, actually. The two-tone with the eave, that looks more fitting, actually.
It does.
The doors on these are actually like a thicker card as opposed to MDF. Hang on, which way's my finger going? There you go. Just to give you an idea of how thin they are.
Yeah.
It's like a 2 mil thick. I don't know what that is in Imperial. We don't know how to count measurements.
16th.
Sorry. I apologize, Socks. I know that you know how to count. It's just George.
I think it's about 16th of an inch.
That sounds about right. This is one of the staircases with a hot tub. Building the hot tub, I actually found a couple of errors with my kit. It hadn't quite been cut properly. One of the parts had pieces on it that wasn't supposed to exist. It wasn't that hard. I just sliced them off. Also, the walls on these were a little bit like they were too wide, so I just sliced a couple of them down. I don't think you would know if I don't point it out, but you'll see that one there, if you look closely, is actually a different size than the rest of them.
Yeah, just slightly.
That's pretty much the only real... Yeah. Pretty much the only real problem that you've got with that. These obviously line up to the front door so that you've got that. It's kind of hard to do in the middle of the air.
Sure.
And then finally, there's also a back staircase, which is nicer and boring.
That looks more like the front staircase, and that one
I like the fact
more like the back.
Well, you could do it either way, really.
Yeah.
It just depends on how you want to lay it out. Like, it's all modular. I mean, unless you glue it together, which obviously I'm not going to, because that would just make transporting it harder.
Exactly.
Because everything is painted in this, the stuff isn't painted. The stuff that isn't painted kind of stands out more. And it's the right color because this is literally wood. The boards are literally wood. Like, it just makes sense. Honestly, it really works.
Yeah.
I'm really impressed with it. It hasn't been hard to build. When I was building this roof, I didn't quite get the line up on the arches right, so they actually don't quite line up smoothly. That was my fault. Because rather than build it on top, I was building it and just tried to make it straight, and they weren't straight. So, but honestly, it still works. It's fine. I wouldn't mind having a second one of these, honestly. Like, it is that good. I need to finish building what I've got and then put it on the table and then see, and I may end up buying another one. I may not. We'll see. But it's definitely been worth the money. For those on Patreon that have been kind of following my story on this, shipping terrain from Blacksite Studios to Australia is very expensive. And this isn't their fault. It's just the way that the industry is. Shipping anything from America to Australia or back is very expensive. We know this because we've done it ourselves.
We've looked into it.
Don't we, George?
Yeah, I was going to say...
I ended up using a... Yeah.
I was going to say, when shipped you the kernel, I want to say shipping was, I thought, fairly reasonable for what I shipped, and it was still kind of expensive. It was like, I think, $30, $40 for which, to go from where I'm at to where you're at, that's a huge distance, but it's still a fairly small light box. Like,
I actually shipped this through a redirection service, and I've been kind of intending to do a video on my thoughts on it, whether I recommend it or not. When I shipped this particular kit, I saved roughly around $75, $76 that I would have spent if I had have shipped it directly from them. And that includes the fact that I also paid for shipping twice, because I paid for shipping in the US and then again to Australia.
That is massive.
Well, I had to go to the redirection service and then to me. Yeah. It wasn't quite as much with the book for Hametsu, but it was still cheaper. I think it was 15 to 20 because it's not as heavy and it's not as much. The downside is that when you're delivering it somewhere, like the company that does it only uses their own courier service within Australia.
Yeah.
And if you're not physically at the location where you're having it delivered to, they will send it back and try again, and then you will either have to pay them to do it again, or you will have to go to them. And whoever it was that's delivering in my area, I have had numerous problems with. Not just with this, but with my Ghostbusters pack a while back as well. I would definitely still recommend them, but I would be very selective with where you... Like, if you're wanting to get it delivered to home and you're not going to be there, probably don't do it this way.
Yeah.
Because you'll want to be there, or you'll want somebody to be there to be able to sign for it, because they will not just leave it by the door. And in the case of mine, like, I was having it delivered to work for obvious reasons. And then the first time they went to deliver it, they came to work and went, "Oh, this is a hospital. This address must be wrong." They didn't even try to deliver it. They didn't even try. I organised for it to be re-delivered with very specific instructions, being that, and if you're going to deliver it, you need to do it after 9 o'clock in the morning, otherwise I won't be there. Because when they tried to deliver it the first time, they tried doing it at 6 o'clock in the morning. When there are no businesses open.
Who the hell is delivering
or anybody at reception
at 6
to
in the
take
morning?
baggage. I think they actually didn't leave the warehouse, is my suspicion. But I can't prove that. So in the end, I either had to pay them another $6, or I was going to have to go into Melbourne to pick it up. And that's what I chose to do, because I just happened to have days off the following week.
Yes.
I didn't have that problem with Hametsu, because I organised for it to be shipped at home, because I was going to be home. So I just get, like, working at a hospital, obviously there is some issues there. Like, if you're at a building that has multiple locations, you need to specifically say what level you need to specifically say where. Like, I have to have instructions that basically says, like, I gave instructions for them to leave it at reception. They basically got ignored. But you would need to actually write that, because if you don't write it in the address, it won't get looked at, basically. So just be careful. Well, it's not so much just understand this. Not all couriers are flexible. Some couriers have very strict rules, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. But if you're trying to organize things that don't necessarily fit inside that bubble, you will find it frustrating.
I'm going to kind of lean on
I've saved a lot of money.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, saving $75 in shipping, it's kind of almost worth a little bit of that hassle, though. I mean,
I had the same thing happen with my Ghostbusters pack, and that got delivered on the second attempt, but it was exactly the same problem, and I fixed the problems to make sure it didn't happen this time, and it still did. So
yeah.
I'm in a situation where I can't have things delivered to home because I won't be here because I work 9 to 5. So
yeah,
I'm going to have to be selective with when I choose to use the service.
I guess I should be pretty.
I have mixed opinions.
Pretty lucky then.
Yeah, you work at home.
I know when a delivery truck pulls up to my house.
Yeah, there will be a video on it at some point. I mean, there won't be. I don't have referrals or anything because, well, I'm a nobody. Why would I have any? But for those like me that have been trying to fix this problem, I think I have found the solution here. It's not a new solution, but it's just not one that people know of, I don't think. So I'll go into it. I know Sox has said that he doesn't have anything, so everybody look at Sox and throw shade in his direction. Shame.
I wanted to get some done.
Shame.
No, but
shame.
So yeah, if you guys remember 2 weeks ago,
I'm pretty sure that we're going to be saying, yeah,
in the middle of the last episode, and so with current events in the world, work has been insane. So I haven't had much time.
Gee, somebody in the military being very busy.
Yeah, right. So
lies.
You sit behind a desk for a living. How can you be busy? George, what have you been up to? I suspect that we're about to turn that shade and I'll throw it back at you now.
No. I've been studying for certification exams, but last weekend, Sam was up and I got really pissy with my new camera that it doesn't work with the app made by the manufacturer, and the remote that I had does not work with the new camera either.
Yeah, that's right.
So, but we, Sam and I did film a Let's Play of his birthday present, Stranger Things. I just need to do a couple of things and release that to Patreon, and then the rest of y'all at some point. I feel like he and I did a fairly decent job of explaining the layout and how to play the game. So, still kind of a $70 remote is no longer compatible with, and it's not even like it's like the GoPro 8 to GoPro 12. No, it's a GoPro 8 to GoPro 9, and the remote's not compatible anymore. It's the next freaking model.
Yeah.
It's so not too much in the way of hobby. I did have a thought on my gaming desk or my gaming table that would essentially, it's the same kind of thing, but it would essentially make the one that I bought like a worthless purchase now.
Obsolete.
So, but that's for the future. So,
yeah. So yesterday I was spending some time. You'll actually see that some of you may have seen the pictures on Instagram. I was helping a friend of mine play test a war game that I have actually spoken about before. He'd kind of taken a break just before pandemic and hadn't really picked it back up again because he kind of burned himself out like I did, or have several times. But we like genuinely had fun. It's going really well. Things seem to be in a good place. He did what I have done like several times at this point. Oh, my camera's going weird.
So I did see that picture, and I have two things to say about the picture that you posted. I know it's probably still in development and testing, but I love the aesthetic and look of the miniature. Just that blocky design like that. I thought that was just really cool. Just like, super basic and simple, just kind of awesome.
Everything's been and that is it has been designed very simple and basic looking. Basically, the way he wants his minis to work is he wants the miniatures themselves to be all modular. Because you can swap in parts in and out, different weapons and different shielding and stuff.
Oh, like specifically make it designed to be magnetized?
Pretty much. Like the idea, you can have a tank, right, and you'll have different turrets with different weapons on them, and different shieldings that you can add or take off and stuff. So he's trying to make it so that it.
The second thing that I loved is the fact that he designed the slot in the back to hold actual dice.
Yeah.
I think
he actually designed those bases too.
Yeah,
those bases don't exist in real life.
I think that is the last time I saw something like that I thought was a really great idea was someone had taken the actual assets from Drop Zone for Drop Fleet and then made a little spot to hold a D6 to show how many tank assets, how many infantry assets for the location and Drop Fleet. I think that is a brilliant idea for given the scale of a whatever game, and I love the fact that that he's gone with that idea, knowing nothing about it.
Yeah,
just having a spot to have a dice with it to mark something is a great way to keep it there and in position.
It's something that people do in Kings of War quite a bit as well, because in Kings of War you make little dioramas for each of your stands and stuff. The bases that he designed, because he really likes the round-lipped bases, and I don't disagree with him, honestly. I really like them as well. I think they look nicer than the usual G-Dub style ones. I mean, I'm not saying that G-Dub ones don't look nice. They still do. It's just aesthetically, I like the rounded look.
Yeah,
but you can't get those in squares. They don't exist. Nobody has ever made them. So he designed those in just really, really simple CAD design software into the size that he wanted. Are you looking? They don't exist, George. I can tell you that for a fact. And basically, because all he needs is the dimensions of what the base is, right? So he's just I want it to be a square that's, I don't know what the size is, but let's say it's 40 mil by 40 mil. It's not, but let's pretend it is. And then it just needs to be this high, and then I just need to round the edge, and then there's an inside bit of it that needs to be a mil lower, and then you've got a base. And then he's kind of done the same thing with the frames. It's a really, really simple concept, and it's worked really well. That was one of the first things he actually did with the game, because he knew what he wanted to do. I'm probably going to get him to try to do the same thing with my base size, just because I want to see how it looks. Because round lip bases for the oval that I've chosen don't exist either. It may not do anything for me, but I'd like to at least see how it looks. So it's kind of a cool idea. I lost my game. It was actually a lot closer than I thought. No, sorry, no. I drew in my game. I was convinced I was going to lose the entire game. And to the point where just before the end of the round, it's we're still going to play this through, but I'm going to shake your hand now because I can't win or draw at this point. You have won. And I was actually wrong. I was convinced that I had lost, but I was wrong because I was getting one of the rules wrong. So I actually was drawing when I didn't think I was. And the other thing I've been doing, not so much play testing with Entropy City at the moment. I've been kind of going back more to the writing side of things because I've kind of been after PAX and probably came out a little. I was a little bit burnt out after PAX because of just how nuts everything was. I'm kind of coming back out of that now. I'm kind of itching to do some hobby again. But I've been doing a little bit of creative writing. So I've restarted writing the creative writing is something I used to do a lot when I was younger. I used to do competitive creative writing, which is another story for another day. But basically, I kind of found my groove, I think. And I know Socks has read it. I know George said he was going to later. I don't know if
I read it. I was in the middle of a massive server issue, so.
Yeah, I remember. But basically, I kind of rewrote the start of what will become the lore, which is...
Yeah, and I like it.
Perspective is an interesting thing. Yeah. Most seem to forget the days when Entropy City was a metropolis like many others, a city born of opportunity and wealth. People forget the moments where things almost changed for the better, the moments of sunshine in between the pouring rain. But sadly, when you felt the dampness for this long, it sometimes is impossible to remember the warmth of the sun. This is the story of Redemption Falls, a once great city that fell into an entropic state that it never recovered from. This is the story of small moments in time when the only way forward made so much sense. This is the story of a community that failed on all levels. These are the stories that could happen to anywhere, to any one of us. And that's the opening of what will become the lore, basically. So the current plan is to write little short stories that all become one large story as part of the lore. So we'll see how it goes.
Talk nerdy to me.
Anyway.
All right, so subject for today. Yeah. We have discussed this briefly when talking about like news articles and stuff in the past a few times, but I don't think we've actually sat down and actually talked about the subject. And for some people, this is extremely controversial, and other people kind of look at this subject and go, I don't really get why this is a conversation. So let's talk about the most obvious one. You're walking into a Games Workshop store, you have 3D printed miniatures, you're not allowed to play with them because it's a Games Workshop store. And I'm not going to argue with them. I actually think that's completely fair. But I kind of want to have this discussion about, like, just, well, A, your thoughts on playing with minis that didn't come from the company in question. Ignoring for a moment whether you are just generally on the subject. Because obviously if you're a volunteer for a company, then you will not want to do that because the whole point is that you're trying to encourage that company to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
So here's my thing. I'm going to do this real quick. Go ahead. Sorry, finish.
But quickly before you do, I'm talking specifically here about using models for a game that don't belong to that game, whether they're 3D printed, made by somebody else. Like maybe they were designed by a third party specifically for the game, but they're not sold by that company. I'm not talking about games that are miniature agnostic because that's a different subject.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're talking about. So, the big elephant in the room, Games Workshop, they are very, very almost to the point of unbearably strict. If you are in a Games Workshop sanctioned tournament in a Games Workshop store, everything has to be from Games Workshop. I even heard as far as even the bases. Like, if you like that rounded edge base better, because of the set, can't have those. You have to have a GW base.
Nope.
Like, everything. I think the only thing
bases do make a difference in Wargaming, in Warhammer too, though.
Yeah, but if it's the same diameter, it's
but they can't be because some of them can't be the same right size.
Yeah, but
I will stand on a hill and fight with anybody who wants to argue over 2 mil. I'm sorry, 2 mil doesn't make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the way I base stuff, my stuff's already staying because like I've got the thickness of the base and the thickness of cork sheet, and then so it's like whatever. But if I were to do a rounded edge base under that, no, they're still gonna.
Yep.
The only thing they can't stop you is whatever kind of paint you use because they can't prove that. And that's Games Workshop in a Games Workshop store doing a Games Workshop thing. Fine, whatever. That's But so now here's the next monkey in the room. Okay, so I have a alternate miniature. Well, I'm going to use it as an alternate miniature. So Custodes, right? They have their dreadnought with the shield and the sword, right? I'm going to have a dreadnought in my Custodian army. It is not going to be a actual dreadnought, though, because it is a 3D printed version of the Emperor. And it is the same size base that came with it. I'm going to get a different base because I hate the base that came with it. It is the same size base as the Dreadnought, so that counts. It's approximately the same height. It counts. It is a really fancy claw and a sword. Shield and sword. Same difference. Now, I can understand being in a Games Workshop store and they say no. Okay, that's fine.
Yep.
I'm not using a 3D printed version of that exact model and not paying Games Workshop for it. So I think that's okay. I am not using a recast. Also, that's okay. This is a completely different thing. It's going to fill the same purpose and role, and I think it's fine. I think doing things slightly different is fine. I think my my Knight Titan, or what, the Imperial Knight, whatever it is, with the Space Wolf bits, I think having those 3D printed bits, because Games Workshop doesn't make those, it fits more with the aesthetic of my army. I think it's fine.
Plus, you've also bought the actual miniature.
Well, yeah. You have to buy the actual carcass too. There's certain things. But even like Cromlech Studios and all these other places where they make an alternative that is not the exact same thing, I think it's fine. And like I said, the monkey in the room is okay. If Games Workshop says, "Oh, we're going to sponsor this," but here's the things. Well, if they're sponsoring it, they can say that, because if you don't, then they say we pull our sponsorship. That's on the TO if they want to deal with that mess. I get that, but if it's
100%,
I don't think it's a big issue.
So here's the interesting thing, and I know I do this so rarely, but I'm going to point this out. Just so I seem to have accidentally chosen a subject that, oh, hey, look, there's no actual wrong answer here. Jeez, it's almost like I do this on purpose quite frequently. Yeah. When I was originally in Warhammer, and like I haven't played Warhammer regular for quite some time now, but when I did, even in the outside unofficial community, there was still this stigma of if you had third-party miniatures, then you would get looked down on unless they looked really cool, in which case it was okay. That, unless they look really cool, is still kind of happens. But there was always lines that people weren't willing to cross. Like 3D printing used to be a lot more obvious than it is now, for example. I mean, you can still see if you look close enough, but from what I understand,
some of these resin printers
tournaments, in unofficial tournaments that aren't directly linked to Games Workshop, it's actually fairly accepted now. Now, obviously, Games Workshop won't like that, but they're not involved. When I was in the competitive community, it very much wasn't. If you was to turn up to a tournament at that point with a 3D printed army, you would automatically lose all of your like hobbying points that you would have gotten if you were going to be allowed to play at all. People were at times turned away, depending on how strongly TOs felt about it. I, much like you, don't necessarily have an issue with it. For me, it depends on why it's happening, what you're doing with it. Like if you like in 40k, the whole point of 40k is to make something your own, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, sure, some of us are really good with green stuff, and I may be able to convert everything to make completely different. But I hate using green stuff. I have no skill with it.
Yeah.
So that's not an option for me if I want to customize things.
No,
I mean, I could learn, but I don't want to learn.
Let me add on to my statement. So if you've got like a Primaris Marine Lieutenant, right, but it is purely 3D printed, but is the exact millimeter by millimeter of the Games Workshop model.
That's where I was leading.
I do have a problem with that because that's their intellectual property. Period. That is just.
I have a bigger problem. I have bigger problem with something else. I have a bigger problem with something else that you mentioned.
Oh yeah.
I have no time at all for recasts. If you was to walk into a tournament that I was running with recasts, now granted, it would be hard to prove that, but if it was obvious that they were recasts, now in saying that, I don't run tournaments. But if I was running a tournament and everything was recast, I would probably show you the door. Because I am very much against recasts for that reason. Here's the thing. Everybody wants to make Games Workshop out to be the villain. And hey, we will throw shade at Games Workshop all day, every day, if you give us the opportunity. I'm really bad for it. And I'm making it clear that I shouldn't do it as often as I do. I have been called out for it by my friends because some of the things that I say is not necessarily fair. I don't actually have a problem with Games Workshop, but I will point out the problems I have with things if I see them. But Games Workshop are not the villain when it comes to this, because they have not only the right to defend their IP, they're actually required to by law. Otherwise, they lose that IP.
Yeah.
Now, do they go after things that they don't have a right to go after? Yes. That definitely does happen. They have lost in court a couple of times because of it. Like, they lost against Chapter House as the most famous example. Ironically, they also sent that company out of business as well. They definitely have gone after people that shouldn't have been gone, that were just doing their own thing. But there are also other examples. Like we have looked at stories where like there was an Eldar Kickstarter we were looking at, and it was literally just this was just somebody ripping off Games Workshop and trying to sell them on Kickstarter. Yeah. And we had another one that we looked at like an episode later where somebody was doing Eldar stuff, but it was completely different Eldar stuff. It was 100% their own thing. I mean, there was definitely some that looked close, but he had actually done work.
Yeah. No.
For me, that's like you. Like for me, that's the difference.
Yeah, and that's the whole like have they changed enough? Have they made the attempt to make it different enough? And yeah, it's one of those, and it's a very gray area. One of the things that I've spent hours looking at because it's one of the most common third-party bit things out there is Space Wolf conversion stuff. Somewhere I've got a little,
because everything is Space Marines. Yeah,
I've got a little resin kit of stuff that it's wolf pelts for the Primaris Dreadnought because they haven't done that yet. And I kind of like the fact that the Space Wolf Dreadnought has those bits. If you look at all the Dreadnought kits out there, they're all the same except for the Space Wolf one. That is its own specific Dreadnought kit because of those couple little bits. And so,
I'm pretty sure you've got the same kit I did have and gave away, but I had the Blood Angel version of that from memory because it was for the Redemptor Dreadnought, right? Convert
for
it
the Primaris.
Yeah.
So that's what I've got. But it was a third-party sculpture.
So
where
we had the same kit, but I had the Blood Angel one. Yeah. And they were gorgeous pieces too.
Oh yeah, but
we're talking Games Workshop, and it's just that's the obvious story here. When it comes to 3D printed stuff, there's not as much stuff out there for other companies because either A, it's not going to sell, and even for example, I'm just going to throw this out there. Dystopian Wars, because it's what Sox is into right now. I have never seen anybody design anything for 3D printing for that because I can nigh on guarantee you nobody's going to buy it if they do. Because anybody that's playing that game are also wanting to support the company. Because it's not large enough where anybody... I mean, is there people out there that try to rip off other companies? Yes, and I might actually give an example later. Because I became aware of one that I actually pointed out to a company very quietly in the background. If you lost your stuff, hey, I'm probably responsible for it. But Socks.
Yes.
Ignoring Dystopian Wars for us, just generally on the subject itself. When it comes to alternate models or 3D printed models for a game or something, do you have a line that you would draw? There's no wrong answers here. I'm just curious.
Yeah, so
You could 100% say they're all not okay. Like there's no wrong answer here.
I mean, it does look nice seeing the different scopes. I mean, B1 battle droids, stormtroopers, for example.
Yep. Yeah, I could
You
totally
can only do so many scopes that's going to look the same
With their kit. Yeah.
with their kit.
And
But
actually,
at the
there
same-
is actually a very large 3D printing community for Legion. That is a good point.
It's huge.
And Marvel Crisis Protocol and Shatterpoint. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Go ahead.
but I'm also in the mindset of supporting the company. I mean, you're producing something that I
Yes.
enjoy, so I'm gonna support you so I can continue playing the game. So
Actually,
There's a couple of times that we had opportunities to talk about Legion stuff for 3D printing that I said I didn't want to cover. Because they were being pointed at me as, hey, Bruce, you said that you would play if this stuff existed, and it wasn't an answer. Like, there was a Gungan 3D printing file that you could get for free, I want to say. It might have been very cheap. It was either free or it was very cheap, one or the other. There was also Ewoks that was being done at some point as well.
but now that
They did exist before the Ewoks were announced, but we covered this at one point when Atomic Mass Games basically turned around and said, look, we know that this is happening. Our official rule is that if it's a kit that we design, then you're not allowed to use it. Now, you can only make rules. Whether people follow them is another story. I think of all of the responses I've ever seen to 3D printing, that's probably the most fan-friendly one. And they still got hate for it, like massive hate. We were probably one of the only people that didn't go after them over it. Because anybody that was into 3D printing just immediately went, oh, they're evil, look at them, da-da-da-da-da-da. When, like, they were literally like, look, if we don't make it, sure, we don't have a problem with it.
No, I was going to say...
Where most companies would turn around and go, no, this is not okay.
It's been very recent, but I want to say for the longest time, there's one, and this is a very, this is again a specific Games Workshop 40K thing. There was one bit that you could not get third-party sculpt of, or of anything. And, you could get, all the other bits, arms, legs, guns, heads, all that stuff and everything. But you would still have to buy a GW kit to get legs.
Okay, yeah.
And so, I haven't looked for a while, and I'm just wondering if that's still a thing of, how some of these companies are getting around the whole, because Games Workshop knows you'll still have to buy a kit.
I do know of some.
They're very
I do know some companies that do some resin options.
Yeah.
Like Puppets War do some alternate looking bodies, and they are completely different. But at that point, you would need to buy into their system. Like, you wouldn't really be able to buy their bodies and then put Space Marine stuff onto their bodies. I mean, you might be able to, but it wouldn't be as smooth a transition as buying some of their heads and then just replacing the bodies. Replacing the heads on your Space Marines.
Yeah.
Cromlech, I don't think they have Space Marine ones, but they definitely have Orc ones. But I haven't seen.
Well, and the thing
did at one point completely print a Blood Angel Space Marine, which was literally a carbon copy of something that Games Workshop did. And I'm going to explain why I did, because I don't disagree with what you said earlier. The reason I printed it at the time is because, well, A, it was free, was specifically because I wanted to use it as a test mini for a paint scheme I wanted to try. So that, because stripping plastic was a little bit more difficult over here, because I don't have access to the easy thing that you use. And also, it just meant I didn't have to worry about it. Could you just repaint over it again? Yes, but it was just, when I'm finished with this, I could just crunch it up and throw it in the garbage. Which is basically, I actually ended up doing it without even painting it, but I did that, and I thought, like, you know what, this is fine. I'm not wasting anything. It's just, I could save all of my kits and do them when I'm ready, and this lets me test things. And I felt that was okay because I never intended to use it in a game. I just used it for a test piece. I mean, Games Workshop wouldn't like it, but I still did. And it doesn't exist. I destroyed it. Alternate, like, it happens a lot. The line that I draw is recasts. And like, if I'm playing a game against Socks, and like he has this one mini that he doesn't own yet, but he wants to test the rules for it. I mean, sure, like he's going to use an eraser for that one ship. I don't really have a problem with that. But if he turns up to the table and everything is just stuff from his kitchen, I'm walking away from the table.
Yeah.
And yes, you will get people try that. I have literally played games of Warhammer 40k where somebody didn't own a Space Marine Dreadnought, but they used a can of Coke. And you know what? I have no problem with that. But if you turn up and half of your army is that, I have a problem with it. And that's where I draw the line personally, in friendly games.
So,
unless this is somebody that's getting in for the first time and don't know what they want to buy yet and just want to test some things. Maybe they've got minis from a different game they want to use. Maybe they just want to play the game. They already own stuff that's close enough. I don't necessarily have a problem with that because it's a different subject then. But if I have somebody that's trying to get into the hobby and they want to play a game and just kind of get an idea of it, I don't really mind if they pull stuff out of a board game and throw it on the table or whatever, if it's just so that they can try it before they buy it.
Yeah, there's a certain extent. Like there was one guy who was quite notorious. He had a Tau army, and he played Space Marines. He put everything on the table as Tau, and everything was a proxy of a Space Marine. And it's just like, I stopped playing with him because I could not keep track of all of his proxy.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that there is a line there, and he has crossed that line several times ago. Like, if you want to test a squad of something, like, I'll use Legion example just so that Socks isn't falling asleep hearing 40k every 3 seconds. Like, Socks wants to play the droids, and he has the rules for this box, but the box isn't out yet. So, you know what? He's just going to use clone troopers instead of the droids for the moment. Just because, look, they're not out. I just want to see if they work in this list. It's not a tournament. It's just a friendly game. I just want to test it. Or I used the example of using an eraser for a ship earlier. Because, look, I may buy this ship. It's not out yet, but I want to try it.
Yeah.
It's not that big of a deal. There are 100% people out there that will have a problem with him trying that.
Oh, yeah.
And I have no problem with those people. I'm not going to sit and argue with you. You're not wrong. We're just talking about where our own limits are. If you turn up to a table to play a game of 40k with somebody, and that person has a fully 3D printed army, and you're unhappy about that, you don't have to play with them. You're not a bad person from walking away from the table. The other person may think of you that way. I can't guarantee you that they won't. So long as you, like, if you turn around and go, oh, you're an idiot, this is all they 3D printed, you're a horrible person, I never want to talk to you again. You know what? Sure, you're the bad guy then. But if it's just like, look, I would rather support the company, I'm not really comfortable playing against somebody that's just 3D printing stuff. All good for you, it's just not my thing. I'd rather maybe let's play other things. Mm-hmm. You can easily take either stand on this without being that guy. And I know that this is the internet and this comes out on the internet, and therefore the extreme point of view is probably the one that you're all expecting. And you will find people like that, but just don't play with those people. Honestly. It's like the whole conversation we had a few months back about unpainted minis. Like, if people are that strict about it, where they won't even let you test the thing that you brought that you haven't even had a chance to play with yet, just don't play with those people. Don't be friends with those people. Because, like, if they're going to be nasty to you to that point, then they're not friends anyway. So
No.
I don't know. I just thought it was an interesting discussion. I do find it interesting. Like, it's only been like 5 or 6 years. And I think because it's more widespread and available now that 3D printing has become so widely accepted, whether companies like it or not, it might be interesting to discuss the future of the hobby at some point, maybe. But that's, again, it's a different subject. But I don't know. Socks, like, you don't own a 3D printer. If somebody turned up with a fully 3D printed army, would you have an issue with it? Assuming that it's not an official tournament? Let's use Legion as an example.
I don't think so, because I've played with people. They didn't have a complete, fully 3D printed, but they had squads of troopers, and I was fine with it. So.
And George has already answered the question, so correct me if I'm wrong, George. It's not so much like if somebody had a fully 3D printed army. If it was 3D printed carbon copies of everything, you would have a problem with it. But if it was a custom army, you wouldn't have a problem with it.
No. Yeah, if it was a Space Wolves army,
somebody
and
turned up with a one-page
was...
rule army. Yep.
Yeah, so if someone showed up with a Space Wolves army where they designed every single miniature so that you could see that this is a Wolfen, but this is my own design of Wolfen, and it is completely different from Games Workshop. And the same with Thunderwolf Cavalry, and everything is different.
Good point.
If it's their own unique idea, and they've sculpted it and they've printed it, and I don't care if they've
or using other people's files to do it.
Yeah, if they've got to and they've downloaded the file that it's printed a 100% exact copy of what's in the Wolfen kit. Yeah, no, that's not all right.
Yeah, I just realized that there's an elephant in the room that we are
ignoring?
Not discussing, which you just said. Well, I think I hadn't thought about it until just. I mean, I did have this thought earlier, but I'd forgotten about it. Things need to be clear. Is the other thing. I made this silly example earlier of Socks using an eraser instead of a ship because it would be roughly the right size. Like, if Socks was to turn up with 3 erasers that all looked identical, I have a problem with that. Unless he writes on the thing, a little sticker on it that says, "This is XYZ, this is ABC," that makes it very clear that he's not trying to mess around with things. And I'm not saying that other people would, but if you have things that aren't very clearly what they are and very clearly defined what they are, like if I have 2 squads of 3D printed droids, one is meant to be B1s and the other one is meant to be droidicas. If they look the same, I mean, A, that's going to be a problem because the bases should be different, and I'm pretty sure the bases will make a difference in Legion. But B, there's the chance then that Socks could accidentally forget that the one that was destroyed was the droidicas and not... Yeah, and then even just to cover yourself against those accusations, things should be very clearly laid out. Even if it's just a matter of the bases are a different rim color or something. You can do this very easily. There just needs to be something so that those sort of accusations can't get thrown at you. And like I said, this is just as much about covering your own butt as anything else. Much like if you're doing things in the military, everything, you have to cover your own butt all the time. Yep. And that's not just because people are horrible. It's also because, you know what? It's actually a smart idea. But anyway, I think we've kind of talked it through. It's like I said, it's just interesting how I suspect that this is going to become more and more commonplace. There will be a point in time where a line will be drawn where companies will attempt to cross the line. And there's already companies out there that are 100% doing print to play games or selling Warhammer. No, it's not Warhammer. Warmer Hordes are literally selling 3D printed miniatures. Like they are literally doing that. Then we covered a couple of companies that are doing that now. It is becoming the norm because printers have gotten to a point where you can pay for a miniature that's like you don't have to deal with warehouses of stock. You can just print things as they're ordered now. Like it's arguably the future of the industry. It's going to become the norm at some point. When that happens, there are going to be some very upset people. I will be one of those people. But I don't have a problem with it per se.
Tournaments, demos, conventions, that kind of stuff.
We are starting with an event that's actually taking place today. Why am I talking about it? Well, because this happens on the last Sunday of every month. So, there is a new group that has formed in Melbourne, the Melbourne Figure Painters Collective. There's one guy that started this as kind of like he's trying to encourage people to paint together, something that he used to do before the pandemic, and he wants to kind of get the ball rolling on it again. It happens at the Catherine Syme Library from 12 till 5 p.m. at Faraday Street in Carlton. You can just turn up. He has an Instagram page, which will be linked in the show notes below. If you're looking for people to paint with, it's on the last Sunday of every month. I will not be going today because obviously I am busy. But I'm definitely going to go along to one of these at some point. It's a good opportunity to talk about my hobby. It's a good opportunity to talk to people about my game, maybe. Depends on what I'm doing at the time, hobby-wise.
Nice.
And hey, it's always nice to meet people that are into painting. We've also got the Danger Close Drop Zone Commander Tournament. That appears to be a fan of our previous podcast.
Yeah.
Click on the link and you'll know why I said that. 28th of January 24. It's a Drop Zone Commander tournament for 1,750 points. It's happening at the Bristol Gaming Collective. It seems to be quite a regular event. The one that's on the page at the moment is actually the previous one. But this is something that's happening quite regular. The most recent one prior to this was in September. And it's Drop Zone Commander LZ Hot. I don't quite get where that's coming from. I mean, I know what that is. Hot LZ. I know what that is. That is literally something that we used to be. So I don't... There's obviously something there. I mean, the person running this was not involved in the Hot LZ. So it might just be that somebody wants the name to keep going or something. Or it could be just a coincidence. I don't know. Socks, you've still got a month left. How's things going? Where are you up to?
We are starting 2,000 points for our Dystopian League, Wars League. So yeah, every Wednesday night, it's about 5:36 is when we start playing critical hit games in St. Petersburg. We're up to 2,000 points. We'll be ending on the 29th with our league. We'll still be playing after the league, but the league will kind of end on the 29th with the big, huge... We're going to play on a 12 by 4 foot table with everyone on the board all at once. So almost like an apocalypse type game that Warhammer would do.
So
cool. We have myself and my other fellow war hosts have a scenario all devised up, and so we're looking forward to it. But we'll have a tournament in January time frame. So as that gets closer, I'll announce that as well.
How many flamingos do you have playing in the tournament?
No flamingos right now, but we've got about 10 to 12 folks still, and then I've got new folks coming up every day or every Wednesday asking about it. So I may be running 2 demos this week. So
good, nice. Northern King Kong is also coming up. That is from the 24th to the 26th of November. It's in Ossett, West Yorkshire. £55 includes a hot lunch on both Saturday and Sunday. And that's it for the upcoming event. Oh, no, it's not it for the upcoming events. Our next episode. This is something that I have been wanting to do for a very long time. Our next episode is going to be a special episode where we are going to discuss men's health and mental health in general. Very much open conversation. much like we do when we talk about anything. It's all open conversation. Much like we do whenever we've done interviews, whenever we've talked about anything in the news. It's all open conversation. There shouldn't be any part of this that will be triggering for anyone. If you have things that you want to discuss, reach out to us. There will be information coming up at the end of the episode on how you can do that. And we will try to get to as many people's thoughts as we can. Whether it be about mental health diseases, whether it be about questions of things that you don't understand. We may not have the answers for you, but we can discuss it. It's just generally open conversation. We would like to encourage as many people to be involved as we can. And look, we're just going to have a conversation, and that's what the episode will be. Valhalla Hobby. Valhalla Hobby have been sponsoring us for a little bit of time now. It's very nice to have them on board. They are a store with a very decently large, look at me making up terms. They've got a very large range in the store. Like, they have your regulars, obviously they have your Warhammers. They obviously have your Dungeons and Dragons and your Magic card games, but they have a lot of your indie stuff as well. They have Dystopian Wars, Bushido, they have things from TT Combat, they have things from Blacksite Studios. They have a lot of the indie names that we like to talk about quite regularly. The prices in the store are absolutely phenomenal. We have each purchased things from these guys on regular occasions. In my case, it's me contributing towards gifts. Because, well, shipping from America would be ridiculous. Without Valhalla Hobby, we couldn't have gettingtabled.com. Like, they are the reason that we were able to do that. We're very, very grateful for them. If you use the code GT2305 at checkout, you get 5% off any order over $100. Please support those people that support us. And if you happen to live in their area, you mention that we sent you. It would be nice. If you enjoy what we do, please let people know. You have the option to support us on Patreon. For $2 a month, you get early access to everything video content-wise that we do. There's also posts and other extra videos that go in there from time to time. But I would hope that everybody that's there is there because they want to support us and they want to be part of us. Gettingtabled.com, I have already mentioned. Social media-wise, you can find us at facebook.com/gettingtabled. That's largely where most of our stuff gets shared first. If you want to reach out to us, whether it be about the upcoming event next fortnight or anything else, honestly, gettingtabled@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. If you would like to join our community, please join our community on Discord. It's not just for the Patreon. There are specific channels on there that are just for the Patreon. There's one for Entropy City, which is the game that I'm in the middle of developing, and there is another one that is a Patreon chat. They also have the ability to listen to us when we're recording, if they want to. So join the community. I'd love to see that get some numbers up, honestly. It is active, but it is a small group of people. I'd like it to be a larger group if we can. Twitter, @GettingTabled. Instagram is @GettingTabled. I do have a Twitch. At this point, I'm going to stop doing a regular weekly stream because it's just not getting off the ground. So I'm going to be going back to a casual thing, at least for the foreseeable future. Just because talking to yourself is not fun. I also have another YouTube channel that I'm involved in. I'm a member of Toy Reel, which is action figures and toys and so forth. YouTube.com/ToyReel. You can find us on Instagram at ToyReel as well. But otherwise, I think that's it. Anything you guys want to say about next episode?
No, I think it'll be a good conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For listening to Getting Tabled. Music used in this podcast was created by Eric Matyas at soundimage.org.